This is the second installment in a series of videos where I document the build of an entire Batfleck suit from Ben Affleck's canceled Batman movie. In part 2, I'll be making the neck piece and collar for the suit. All the parts are created from 3D printed resin and TPU material utilizing printing services provided by PCBWay, which means you can also build this suit even if you don't own a 3D printer at home. Let's go. What's up you guys, my name is Mark and welcome to my channel. Part 1 of this series was on how to make the cowl, and if you haven't watched that yet, you can click the video in the corner of the screen. Very similar to the first video, I used PCBWay's printing services for all the pieces of this build. Between working 2 jobs and managing rental properties, I don't exactly have a lot of time to put towards making videos and cosplay projects. Using PCBWay has been super valuable when it comes to printing and post-processing. I know there are a lot of people out there that love making cosplay but don't have a 3D printer and don't really want to take the time to learn how to use one. Companies like PCBWay make it possible for you to get precision 3D printed parts pretty much in whatever material you want without having to know anything about 3D printing. You can pay to print the exact parts you want and get them shipped directly to your door. Not to mention, most of the time, you won't have to do any sanding or post-processing and can move directly to painting. If you're interested in checking out PCBWay, I'll have a link in the description below. As mentioned in the intro, I got the neck pieces printed in a combination of resin and TPU material. I want to have as much mobility as possible to comfortably move my head around, so I chose to use TPU for the majority of the pieces higher on my neck. The collar, back neck pieces, and high chest pieces were all printed using resin. The parts came really well packed and the resin pieces were already super smooth. I'll do some light sanding on them after priming, but overall this will save me a huge amount of time. The TPU pieces have their own unique finish and I won't be sanding or applying any paint to them. They are ready to assemble straight from the print bed, which makes my life a heck of a lot easier. Here are all the parts loaded into Mesh Mixer that show the full assembly. There are a total of 17 pieces and they will be individually connected to each other, kinda like a puzzle. To test the alignment, I use packaging tape to connect the printed pieces together. Before I start sanding, painting, or gluing, I want to be sure all the printed parts fit together nicely and there isn't any interference between them. My taping job, as you can see, is rough and the packaging tape doesn't stick very well to the TPU pieces, but it's enough for me to get a rough idea of how everything goes together. After the parts are connected, I install the neck assembly on a mannequin I bought off Amazon. I'll be using this mannequin to display the suit and honestly can't believe I didn't purchase one of these before for my Arkham Knight build. It's cheaper, easier, and looks way better than making a makeshift mannequin out of PVC pipes. The head is a bit too big for my helmet, but I'll design a holder later that attaches to the torso so my helmet will be able to be displayed with the rest of the suit. I install the collar over the neck piece and everything, in my opinion, looks great. After verifying fitment, I deconstruct the neck assembly by removing the packaging tape from the pieces. Since the resin parts are already really smooth, I move right to applying primer from Rust-Oleum. I give each piece a coat and sand them with 1000 grit sandpaper. I incorporate wet sanding to keep the sandpaper from clogging and work my way all the way up to 3000 grit, usually going up in multiples of 500. After sanding, I rinse all the pieces with cool water and dish soap to remove any remaining dust and grime. Once dry, 2 layers of ultra matte black paint from Rust-Oleum is applied to the front and back of every piece. While the paint is drying, I start working on connecting the TPU pieces. A soldering iron and spare TPU filament is used to weld several of the pieces together. Although heating TPU has minimal toxicity, make sure to wear a respirator to avoid breathing in the fumes, as it can be dangerous if inhaled. I had to use an X-Acto knife to trim the edges of some of the pieces so they fit flush together. In hindsight, I should have just combined a few of these files before sending them off to get printed. Soldering the pieces together takes way more time and it would have been a lot easier to get multiple parts printed together as one piece. If you plan to make this at home, save yourself some time and combine the highlighted pieces on the right and left of the neck assembly before printing, as pictured here in Mesh Mixer. Prior to assembling the TPU and resin parts, I applied 2 layers of matte clear coat to each of the painted pieces. My plan is to use a 1-inch elastic band to connect each of the individual pieces together. I start by cutting small strips and using a pen to trace where they will be placed on the neck pieces. Super glue doesn't work very well on TPU, so I opt to use contact cement instead. I found it helpful to use a toothpick to spread it evenly across the desired surface. Make sure you wear gloves and have a spare paper towel or rag handy to clean up any oozing or overspill from the adhesive. This stuff can smell as well, so either use a respirator or make sure you apply it in a well-ventilated area. The front portion of the neck is joined together using a soldering iron and spare TPU filament. I also installed a few elastic straps to reinforce the connection. Now that the back and front portions of the neck are complete, I need a way to attach them together while still making it easy to take on and off. To do this, I'm going to cut some black strapping that I'll glue to the backside of the front neck piece. Using contact cement, I secure 3 8x2mm magnets to the straps. In order to ensure the magnets on the back neck piece are aligned with those on the front, I apply a drop of white paint to each of the magnets and press both neck assemblies together. This provides the exact location on the back neck piece where I'll need to install the opposing magnets. With the white paint marks as a reference, a soldering iron is used to burn out recessed holes in the TPU for the magnets to sit. You can use a Dremel instead if you're worried about accidentally melting through the TPU with a soldering iron. After gluing the magnets into place, the entire process is completed on the opposing side of the neck and the two halves can be assembled together. Before attaching the collar to the neck assembly, I add some fine detailing using a chrome paint pen and metallic acrylic paint. The chrome pen is used to highlight the screws and buttons on the collar, very similar to what I did for the helmet in the last video. Referencing some pictures I found online, it looks like there are also some silver details on the back of the neck piece. I start by applying chrome to the lines running down either side on the back of the neck. Next, using a small paintbrush and a very small amount of metallic paint, I run the brush along the edges of each piece. I apply smudges and light brush strokes to the pieces anywhere I think natural weathering would likely occur. It's a good idea to keep some water and paper towel nearby so you can easily clean up any errors or detailing you don't like before the paint dries. Going back to the reference pictures, I decided to add chrome to the artificial vertebrae on the back of the neck as well. There are a few ridges on the front and side of the neck that also look like they should be silver. After adding the remaining details, I reapply more metallic acrylic paint to give the chrome a dulled appearance. To connect the collar and neck assembly, I take note of where the two pieces make contact and mark them with a Sharpie. I apply a generous amount of contact cement to each spot and press the collar into place. After the adhesive is set, a toothpick is used to add a bit more contact cement in the crevices to reinforce the connections. The last thing to do is apply some craft foam to the inside of the neck. This isn't super necessary, but it does make the inside look a lot cleaner and makes the piece a bit more comfortable to wear. The neck assembly is pretty much done now, and I'd like to display it on the mannequin with the helmet, but as mentioned before, the head is just too big. So I hop in Fusion 360 and design a quick mount that will attach to the mannequin torso as well as hold the helmet. I printed in PLA on my Ender 3 S1, and thankfully it fits on the torso and holds the helmet in the exact spot I want. I'll have a link to the file in the description below. Here's a quick video of me putting on the neck and collar assembly. It's a bit tricky to install, but once it's in place, the magnets are strong enough to keep it from slipping off or coming apart. Here's what the assembly looks like after adding the helmet with the neck gaiter underneath it. So far, I love how it's coming together. And after all that work, here is the final result. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe for more content. I'll see you in part 3, and stay classy.